Long before our heroes loved to be thriving in the grey zone, always brooding, not shying away from gulping down a drink, smoking, and even resorting to the occasional recreational drug, heroes were built different. They were good because heroes had to be good. They weren't the ones to learn a lesson from life, they were the ones teaching them. And that's why one of the greatest heroes to ever grace Tamil cinema screens was lovingly called Vaathiyaar. Vanakkam and welcome to Cinema Express. This is Avinash Ramachandran, and in this video review episode, we are going to look at director Nalan Kumarasamy's Vaa Vaathiyaar starring Karthi, Krithi Shetty, Rajkiran, Sathyaraj, and a bunch of other actors. Vaa Vaathiyaar is a fantasy action comedy that is built simply on the charm and effectiveness of Karthi, who plays Inspector Ramu, an antithesis of the idea of MGR forced upon his throat by his MGR-loving grandfather played by Rajkiran. After understanding that the world pays M.N. Nambiyar better than MGR, Ramu decides to live a double life. A corrupt police officer by everyone but his grandfather, and an honest police officer by no one but his grandfather. Nalan takes his time to establish the kind of depraved cop Ramu is, and if you have seen the trailer, read news about this film, seen interviews of the same, or just spent a couple of minutes deconstructing the title, you know what's in store. After spending a bit too much time with Ramu's debauchery, which also includes being the yes man to a rich industrial fixer, Periyasamy, played by Sathyaraj, we are brought back to the fantastical reality of the film. What if Vaathiyaar comes to life through Ramu and teaches a thing or two to society? But how do you convince the audience that such a thing is possible? Simple. Have a character that will answer the questions, and that is what Krithi Shetty's Woo does. She plays a paranormal spirit guide, a medium of sorts, and Nalan uses her to connect the fantastical to the real. While these portions also allow a romance to be built between Ramu and Woo, and also bring back the concept of set-based songs that are fun to hear and even more fun to see, it only acts as an unnecessary but cute distraction. However, just like how Periyasamy and his daughter, who are shown to be ruthless, money-minded people, are sidestepped to shift focus to Woo, Nalan soon shifts focus from Woo to a group of ethical hackers who want to save the country from Periyasamy's global domination agenda. See, we have an almost superhero at the center of events, a global domination and play, a supernatural presence that only the leading lady can sense, a reluctant hero who doesn't want to do good by anyone, a Lex Luthorish villain who kills people by throwing things on their head, and Anandraj's character who continues to live as if MGR is still alive. Nalan has a lot of pieces in place, but somehow doesn't get them all together, and we end up with a sense of disappointment because we have grown to expect more from Nalan. Of course, the film has moments that feel too convenient, and honestly, these are moments that we might have given a free pass in any other film, but this is a Nalan Kumarasamy film, right? We know he embraces his quirks, and here he doesn't quite go the full way. Why pull back punches in a film that has MGR coming to save the day whenever someone calls for help? The idea is pregnant with possibilities, and it is a pity that Nalan decides to go generic despite the fantastical idea. The hackers are such a boring concept that you don't expect the man who had a character build a temple for Nayanthara in a Sudukavum resort to such cliched ideas. There is a case to be made that Nalan can actually have a quirky premise and use safe methods to build a 90s commercial masala film. But the thing is, masala works because it is supremely aware of its OTT-ness. Masala works best when everyone is in on the audacity of it all. Quirks can't really work with masala simply because one concept is subtle and cheeky, while the other is loud and brave. That is why the fact that Ramu turns into Vaathiyaar and Vaathiyaar pulling off an onion in a film that is reminiscent of a Maaveeran and a Lage Raho Munnabai kind of a film feels uneven because Nalan doesn't completely commit to his strengths and isn't convinced of his own ambitions. And the fact that Vaathiyaar comes too late into the narrative means his portions are crammed into the film, which is just a shade over 2 hours. We're given one savior scene after another, and we just don't buy into the concept that Nalan is trying to sell in the film. But even if we are remotely convinced of the gimmick, it is simply because of an effective Karthi who somehow manages to give Vaathiyaar his own spin without resorting to mimicry. He's so good in both roles, and my only grouse is that we don't get to see him more as Vaathiyaar. Also, this isn't a novel concept by any stretch. We have seen this in many other films before. Now, do we respond to what we see or what we wish to see? This is a contradiction that often plagues reviewers. Nevertheless, Despite having a fantastical premise of the center of things, Vaa Vaathiyaar is Nalan's most simplistic and straightforward film. It feels more like a compromise and less of a cinematic endeavor, simply because the beats are familiar, the notes are familiar, and so is the final output, even if it is enjoyable in parts. Yes, we already have a Maaveeran and Tughlaq Dalbar in Tamil, and even a Lage Raho Munna Ba in Hindi, dealing with a powerful inner voice altering the course of the life of the protagonist. But the disappointing aspects of Vaa Vaathiyaar is the presence of a promise that gets withered away at the sight of commercial compromise. When Vaathiyaar confronts Ramu for the first time in the film, Vaathiyaar says, "I wish we could have met in a better scenario," and in many ways is exactly what I wanted to tell Nalan. That's it from this video review episode. Do like, share and subscribe to Cinema Express, and do let us know what you think of the film and this review. Until we meet in the next episode, this is your friendly neighborhood critic, Avinash Ramachandran, signing off. Tata!